Welcome to the Delvin Cox Experience, the podcast, which each week I'm on a one-man mission to unite our culture through diversity. I'm your host, Delvin Cox. Okay, now it's recording. It just threw me off. It's recording 3 times.
I was watching your eyes. I was like, oh, shit, he's concerned about something.
Like, something is wrong.
It said recording 3 times. Then it's like, all right, now we're really recording. All right, I'm going to try this again. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Delvin Cox Experience, the podcast, which each week I'm on a one-man mission to unite our culture through diversity. I'm your host, Delvin Cox, and this week is part 3, the finale, the end of the season 1, or whatever you want to call it, of the conversation that we've been talking about for the past 3 weeks. And I'll let the guests speak for themselves. Let everybody know who you are. I guess we start with Otis first.
I'm Otis. My Twitter name is Grumpy Otis. I'm one half of the WUDUPDOE Podcast from Detroit since 2014.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Mike. I'm the other half of the WUDUPDOE Podcast, and I should probably have Grumpy in my Twitter handle. It's a much more appropriate name and adjective for me.
Shit.
The cunt slayer.
All right, I'm Aaron. I'm Bearded Beezy on Instagram. I'm 1/3 of the Bearded Eats podcast.
My name is Curtis Harmon. I am at the Curtis H on Instagram, and I am 2/3 of the Bearded Idiots podcast.
I am Kelly. Did you say your last name?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Are you
Kelly.
scared?
I ain't either. I mean, I'm all over the internet. Kelly Sparks.
I got warrants.
Yeah. Man, I've got trials pending. So
That's a whole other story.
Yeah, I'm the other third of the Bearded Idiots. I'm at Son of Thor 3 on Instagram. I also have Kelly Sparks Whiskey Reviews on YouTube. So all things whiskey. If you need honest whiskey reviews and somebody to shoot you straight, I've got you covered.
You can find all of us. Our podcast is at Bearded Idiots Podcast on Instagram. We're at _Bearded Idiots on Twitter, and beardedidiots.com is the website where you can find all the things. Yep.
Is that it?
And I'm
oh, there go Terry.
I'm sorry. I'm Terry. I'm Curtis's wife, and I'm the producer of the Bearded Idiots podcast.
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
Hey, I have a question for Kelly, I think.
Yes, sir.
What'd you say your Instagram name was?
Son of Thor 3.
So
That's awesome.
how'd you get blocked on Twitter, or get your Twitter account deleted?
I've never been on Twitter.
Interesting. So I was looking at what is it, the Herfcast page, and they said that they had someone from your podcast on, and it said Son of Thor, and I clicked on the link, and it said this person's account has been deactivated. I was like, man, wow.
Yeah, Brian needs to get his shit together because he also listed Terry on his podcast as Terry, Terry.
Oh,
He doesn't fact check anything.
oh.
So he probably put the wrong link up.
I signed up for a Twitter years ago and never fucking used it. And I don't remember if I signed up under my real name or my Instagram name. So I could have just been inactive for so long. They're like, oh, fuck this guy.
Was it the same spelling as your Instagram name?
I don't remember Otis.
I'm thinking they may have just put your Instagram name with the @ thinking,
Yeah.
it was the same as a Twitter or something like that.
Yeah, if you do that, it automatically goes to Twitter immediately. And
Yeah, he just linked it wrong.
Yeah.
Rather than linking Son of Thor 3 on Instagram, he just linked it to Twitter.
Yeah.
We can holler at him, tell him to fix it. He's at work right now. He hit me up right before we were on our way over here to do this. He's like, son of a bitch. He texted me. He was all cussing. He's like, I forgot to download Delvin's most recent, episode with y'all. I was going to listen to it while I was at work tonight. But he said I guess he just risked it and switched over I guess he got one of them shitty ass fucking phone plans that if he downloads shit over data, it's going to charge him. He's like, fuck it, I'm downloading this damn thing. So he's probably listening to episode 2 right now as we're sitting here doing episode 3.
Is that a fucking track phone or something? What's charging? Don't everybody have?
Everybody
have unlimited data or something? Shit.
Yeah, he's one of those super sneaky motherfuckers that snips off into Walmart with a fucking mask on. It's like, hey, I need that phone.
He got net 10 by Walmart. he don't shoot up Walmart. He goes there way too often.
Brian is fucking drugs. He got that burner phone. Oh man, what else for to say? But we all came here today because we came to talk about a big issue.
Yes.
So let's get right to it.
Why
the fuck everybody going crazy for these Popeye chicken sandwiches?
How is motherfucking Popeyes going to run out of chicken? That is blasphemy. I mean,
100%.
just 100% blasphemy.
The name of your fucking company is Popeye's Chicken. How do you not have the thing that's in your fucking name?
I love me some Popeyes.
I've been there 3 times this week for my grandmother. And all 3 times have been a line to the streets. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going there.
The important question is, does your grandma get the spicy or the
chicken? Just say you want the chicken, man.
I'm not a big chicken fan. Believe it or not.
Yeah, auto-tune. Otis.
The auto-tune.
I'm not a big chicken fan at all. Like fried chicken? Not really.
Man, that's racist.
They're super hard to get to, man. You got to go hunt them motherfuckers with AK-47s and shit.
Rocket launchers, man.
Hey, man, that's what I was thinking. Like, it is. I feel like it's like I love chicken. I love watermelon. I love collard greens. I love so to speak soul food. It's like
where are we going with this,
I don't know where I'm going with it. I've had too much to drink. I'm just making conversation.
Oh, let's get to the other part. You love conspiracy theories too.
I love conspiracy. I do.
Kelly's like, I got a black friend.
I got a black friend.
His name's Delvin, and he's on this fucking computer right here.
I can see him right now.
But yeah, let's
cigars. I went and broke out a couple cigars because I see Otis and Mike smoking, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna smoke a cigar too.
Yeah, these guys are.
What are you smoking?
This is it is a cheap box of Padilla Maduros, and this is one of their Fumas. It was like the lower end, like $2 a stick, everyday smokes. They're not bad. They're Maduros. They're like a Maduro Robusto.
What are you guys drinking? I see. Is it Wild Turkey 101?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We cheap as fuck over here most times.
I'm drinking vodka and Sprite. Got that whole glass full.
What's in the?
I've never been a big Wild Turkey fan. What ones would you suggest for Wild Turkey?
Talk over me again, Otis. I'm gonna fuck you up.
These guys Avengers come and everything. Take that comeback to your kid.
We can't hear to defend our honor, and he want to fight me and shit. Like, God damn.
That's fucking right.
I didn't even know you were talking, but my bad.
I will snap my fingers right now and turn you into dust, Otis.
What were you saying, Mike? Because I didn't know you were talking at all.
No, I wasn't. I just asked what the shot glasses were on the table.
Oh.
Behind the computer?
Those are
there's like shot bottles behind the computer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no. Those are samples from one of our patrons. Sent us some samples of a whiskey that we can't get in the United States. So
yeah, he one of my patrons, one of our patrons from United Kingdom sent us some samples of a whiskey that's only sold over there. And we did a review and enjoyed them earlier. It's quite tasty.
It's
okay.
good.
That's dope. Good. All right, let's actually get to it now.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. That's the best way to do it. Originally, we were supposed to do a podcast together. This podcast is supposed to be the first and only one.
Right.
But things happened.
Messed that up for you.
Kelly's internet just died.
$2,000 in preparation to make sure that this podcast right now happened. We bought a new board. We got a new computer. We got new fucking cables. It's been something that's been needing to be had we've been needing to have it for a while, but it's like, you know what? We're doing it now. We're going to make sure this shit happens. And then we get hooked up with you just now. We're having a nice little conversation. Mike comes on, and then our internet goes, yeah, no, you can't do it.
Yeah.
We're going to persevere, though. If we doubt for a minute, we'll be back.
I think it was for the best, honestly, because we got the first conversation with Mike and Otis, which was great. And you guys got to hear it. So before we get to that, let's get to that conversation first. What was your thoughts when you heard that episode?
I think we spoke about it.
Bald-headed motherfucker. That's what we thought.
Are you looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, Mike? What the hell?
Right, he is like the fourth bald person on the screen, or the fifth. Hell, everybody's bald but me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, are you the only one with hair?
I think so.
Yeah.
And Terry, Otis and Terry sitting over there with full heads of hair and making us all feel fucking.
Oh, it ain't full. I'll tell you that. It's going.
I just cut mine off recently because my daughter looked in the back of mine and said, "Daddy, you're going bald." I said, "Fuck this." Just immediately cut off mine.
That happened to me at 17, except there wasn't a little kid hollering daddy. It was just random friends going, just let it go, man. Just
it was
let
like,
it go.
"Hey, Daddy, you're going bald, baby."
I had enemies when you got friends like that. Shit.
Yeah.
You need friends like that. You need the motherfucker that'll call you on your bullshit every once in a while. Go, hey, man, that hair just got to go. Just let it go, man. Just let it go. You need friends like that.
Yeah, but definitely. Let's get back to it.
No, I think if I heard your question right, I think you were asking what we thought of the podcast you had with Mike and Otis. I think for the three of us, I think I can speak for all of us. It took us aback a little bit. We're like, holy shit, we've never been exposed to that truthful of a conversation, right, amongst black folks. Like, and I think I said this to you before. It's like, I think if we'd have had the original podcast that we had, I don't know that we would have gotten that response. And I'm grateful that we got that, because I think it let us be a fly on the wall for a minute to hear a conversation amongst black men that are expressing their truths in what would most of the time be a private conversation, right? And It's getting out to however many listeners you got. I mean, we put it out on our feed, which is way less than what you're going to put out, but more people are getting to hear that. And it's like, holy shit, here is a fucking insight into something that I don't think most non-black men get to hear. I don't think they get to hear that raw fucking emotion that y'all put out. So to us, it was a little shocking, right? Because we don't get that interaction on a regular basis. But I think it was honest, and I appreciate the fact that y'all were just like, you know what, fuck it. Here's our fucking truth, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about their episode is a lot of black men commented to me via DM or whatnot, agreeing with them.
Sure.
They had the same sentiment. So I felt like, okay, that told me right there that the episode I did with them was kind of the litmus for, or the standard for what the typical black person thought. Because if what they were saying, only negative thing I've heard was, it wasn't even really negative. They're like, Mike is just too harsh. Mike said cut like 1,000 times.
Well, one of your first comments on when you put that snippet out for it, you put the little teaser out on it, and one of the first comments you got was, "This is either satire or racist, one or the other."
that was hilarious. And then the person
I openly laughed in my truck driving down the road when I saw that.
The person listened to it, got back, they was like, "Oh, that was pretty interesting." And I think, I'm gonna get to that later because they talked about your episode too. They enjoyed your episode as well. But going back to the whole Mike thing, which I found interesting. Two things happened because I'm giving behind the scenes about that episode. That was interesting. Usually my mother, who now listens to the podcast recently.
Sorry.
Don't ever let your mother listen to your podcast.
I didn't want
Delvin.
to.
What the hell?
Well, what's up, Delvin's mom? How you doing?
Yeah.
And the cunt levels were through the roof, man. How did she do with that, dude? Shit.
That's the funny thing about it. Usually she'll give me a response about the episode being great or nothing like that. This is the first time, like, since she started listening to it, she didn't give me any response. So, like,
You went silent on you.
She sent you that sad faced emoji, just like looking down, looking sad. I didn't raise him like that.
And then the second thing about this episode is, this is the first episode I've ever had out of 100+ episodes that got a copyright strike on YouTube.
No shit.
What?
Yes.
Really?
It was hilarious.
Why?
Because Mike went on the episode and badmouthed Beyonce and played a 10-second
Fuck that bitch.
You think that was the issue? Somebody did it because of that?
Yes. He played a 10-second clip and badmouthed Beyonce, and I got a copyright strike from her label.
Oh, that's right. 'Cause we were trying to figure out the song that he was talking about.
Yeah.
Played it for
Oh,
like
yeah.
10 seconds.
And I was so confused. I was like, what the hell did we do? And then then they give you like the time frame. It's like a 10-second clip. And all I hear Mike say something like, fuck Beyonce. And then the clip plays like, holy.
I mean, she got a demon up in her, so yeah, fuck that bitch.
She got a demon.
She got a demon up in her, man. She's crazy.
I'm amazed at the technology that actually finds clips like that. That is just crazy. Shit. I didn't know that. I mean, of all the whole, I mean, it was what, 2 hours or so, and you find that 10-second clip in the middle of it and shit.
Yes. Now, nothing bad came from it, to be clear. They just like, oh, you can't monetize this video. That was it, basically.
Oh, because your videos are monetized?
Not on YouTube.
Oh.
I don't
why'd you get the strike then?
I don't know. That's the whole funny thing about it. I have no clue.
That's a big reason why we don't put our shit on YouTube very often. If we do, it's a hidden video and it's for our patron only and all that kind of shit, because we play a lot of music, especially in our shenanigans portion. Like when we're sitting around here having our first comics before we get going, we got all kinds of fucking music going in the background, and we're like, we know we're going to get fucking tagged for that shit, so we don't even try.
Well, we're always I'm hoping our podcast doesn't get shut down, because our intro is a whole copyright of something. So, like the start of our intro is a song by a local artist, and I'm always shocked that we don't get shut down. But it's not like we're monetizing anyway. But SoundCloud does that though. You play anything with SoundCloud, and they'll delete your shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when I upload our podcast to SoundCloud, there's an option that says, "Is this music?" And I always say no. So I hope that cuts down on the likelihood of that. But I don't know.
So I'm curious to see. I mean, you asked the question, Delvin, and I think we're probably going to go this way. But I'm curious to know what Otis and Mike's reaction was when they listened to our side.
That's exactly what I was going to ask next. You hit it right on the head.
Who first? Oh, well, I had to be honest. When I was listening on my way home, working the other day, and I got to a certain point, and I was like, I don't know if there's a reason to get back together, because I feel like our opinions were so far different. I was like, I don't know where is going to be the meeting point. I had thoughts like, you know what, maybe we just shouldn't even do it, because I don't know where we're going to. We're kind of at an impasse. We're like, we're going east, you're going west. But, I was talking with Mike when we were about to record our podcast, and I was like, well, that's probably not the way to go. I mean, we've had great dialogue, but, the opinions are so different with that topic. I just did for a moment, I really was like, I don't know what we're going to come to agree.
Did y'all hear that?
Agree to disagree. But
yeah, he's chopping pretty bad.
Sound like T-Pain.
Well, this is a good cue for Mike to go then.
Did y'all hear those gunshots?
No.
That's what that was? Fucking Detroit.
But you are in Detroit. You are in Detroit. I'm just going to point that out.
Yeah, I said, what are the odds? And I was like, pretty high.
And the funniest thing about that whole scenario is it literally could have been either one of us. It could have been Detroit, Miami, or fucking Texas.
Yeah, hey, Longview was in the running one year, I think it was 2 years ago, for one of the most deadliest cities in Texas. And, like, we were up there with, like, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. It was, like, neck and neck with murders per capita.
Yeah.
So, like, it wouldn't surprise me if you hear gunshots. I mean, it's not going to be as prevalent as, like, Detroit or St. Louis or wherever, but Chicago. Well, Chicago's not even the top. It's like St. Louis and what's the other one? The motherfucker who just got in trouble for embezzling money. Fuck.
Dude, you're drawing from the wrong well. You asking me?
Yeah. Y'all need to do y'all's research.
Apparently, yeah.
Damn it.
I'm just forgetting shit. I've been drinking too damn much.
I feel you there, Otis. And I was thinking kind of the same thing when I was listening to y'all's. I was like, holy shit, how are we going to come at this with Delvin? And because I know kind of where we stand on this, and you're right. We're fucking leagues apart from each other. But you didn't get to finish what you were saying. I'm going to let you go because you were breaking up pretty hard. I don't know if you're back with us or not.
Up.
I see his microphone is on mute though, and it looks like he's not moving.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think he's still breaking up. Like
Right.
That's crapping out.
What it seemed like he was going towards is like, hey, just because we're leagues apart doesn't mean we can't have a conversation. I think that's the path he was heading down. You can confirm that, Mike. He said y'all talked about it, and I think that holds true.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying surprisingly enough, I was the voice of reason, and I was like, who cares? We can talk. It's not a big deal. Like it's not like there were times I got the impression that you guys were like, I don't know if they're gonna want to talk to us. I'm like, no, I'm good. We can still talk. It's not a big deal. I think one thing that's interesting is I tend to bring a lot of passion to a lot of topics, and that doesn't undermine my sense of reason. Like I'm perfectly open to talking with somebody, and like we all have talked before, and I left that episode like, oh, the three guys is cool. So I didn't listen to that and be like, oh, well, fuck them now. Like I was like, oh, we can still talk. Like I agree that we are far apart, but I'm like, we can also bridge that gap a little bit at least.
I'm going to give Mike a lot of credit because when we had a conversation about this earlier, Mike not only said that, he said like those at the end of the day, even though we don't agree, those are good dudes. It wasn't like he took what you guys said and like, fuck those guys. No, Mike was literally like, the voice of reason, like, no, those are good dudes. We can still have this conversation. It's not an issue at all. We just think differently.
Yeah, I think we felt that way leaving away from it. It's like, okay, so we have completely opposite ideas on this particular issue. But I think you can do that. And it's one of the things that's beautiful about our country is I think you can have complete opposite ideas of each other, but still work towards a common goal, right? The goal is to be proper or prosperous in this country, right? You want your generation to be a little bit better than your parents' generation. And you want your kids' generation to be a little bit better than yours. And maybe we come in, and that's what's beautiful about this thing is there is going to be middle ground. Now, maybe the six of us can't come to a true median, right? But when you zoom out and you see a country as a whole, if everybody starts having these kinds of conversations, I think what we're going to find is that there is more of a middle ground than what is presented to us through media, through national publications, through special interest groups. I think truly in this country, there is maybe not a true dead center 50-50, meet in the middle thing. But I don't think that gap in the middle is anywhere near as wide as what popular media would lead us to believe.
Not at all.
I agree with that too. I agree with that.
And also, we're not going to get anywhere. And when I say we, I mean the country. We're not going to get anywhere as a country unless we can find some sort of middle ground, or at least an compromise or something like that.
And I don't, on that point, I don't know that we necessarily need to come to a compromise. I don't know that we need to necessarily find a true middle ground. But what we do need to do is have open, honest conversations. And I think that's what's starting here, because until you open those doors to look at, like what I talked about a second ago, be a fly on the wall in y'all's conversation, to see that truth, to see that raw fucking emotion and the passion is important. Like you said, you get passionate about things. That's important because I feel like you're really speaking a truth there. And I think what happened on our end was, our truth, maybe a little less in your fucking face, but that's East Texas versus fucking Detroit, right? So, but I think if you don't have those open dialogues of people telling their honest to God, here's what fucking matters and why, then you're never going to get to a middle ground. You're never going to find some sort of a position where you can come together and go, okay, this doesn't fit everybody, but it fits the most of body, right? And I think that's what this country is built on, is you're never going to please everybody. You're never going to have everything that you want. We're never going to have everything that we want. But everybody meets in the middle, and you give up a little bit so that the other side gets a little bit, and vice versa, to where we can have a unified country rather than what is perceived as this hugely divided fucking country that we have right now. And that all starts with open, honest conversations like what we're having currently.
Yeah. And not only do I agree with that, I think that one of the main reasons why this country is so divided is because we don't have open conversations. We don't discuss issues that are going on. Not only that, to add to that, we've gotten to the point in this country where we can't call a spade a spade. Like if somebody's full of shit, we don't say that we're supposed to say straight up, they're full of shit.
Right, because you're scared of
that's that political correctness that everybody's scared of getting pinned with, like, oh, you can't call somebody that because it hurt their fucking feelings. No, fuck you. That's what you are.
Right.
Yeah.
You're scared of losing your job, or you're scared of somebody boycotting your business, or you're scared of somebody just hammering you on fucking social media. You know, all these different things that people are just so fucking scared of, that this country is coming to it's an outrage culture. There's a I don't want to say this the wrong way. I think there is a very loud, vocal minority that is just looking for a reason to be pissed off.
Well, and the media panders to that minority
Very much.
No, and I'm not talking about minorities as far as colors, but people who have a certain belief. Because hey, let's be real honest. Like, I'm the only fucking ginger in the room. I'm the real minority. I mean, but I really think I think we can all agree. Like, the middle ground is bad people getting weapons to hurt innocents, either legally or illegally.
Yes.
And how to stop that. And like, until we figure out how to stop that, like that's going to be the biggest issue. And like, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion only, hindering innocent people from getting a way to defend themselves is the wrong standpoint. And I don't have the legislative. I don't have the fucking thought process right now because I'm drinking too much wild turkey. But and this is just an opinion. Like, I really think the way to go, the wrong way to go about this is to hinder good people from defending themselves. Now, I would love to be able to stop every bad person from getting a weapon and hurting bad people or hurting good people, but that's going to be that's that old saying, you know, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Next,
I'm going to give you
fine. I ran out of words. Sorry, guys.
I think you did just now a better job explaining that than you did the last episode. That's full.
He's a little less drunk this time.
I don't know about that.
It's still early.
Yeah.
But
early in the podcast.
I think the way you
So
explained that just now was
until Otis gets back, I am curious to pick your brain because, you know, the previous conversations that we've had, you know, you've been very clear with us. You're very good at articulating your thoughts, and I greatly appreciate that because I have conversations, and it fucks me up because I have conversations with people a lot, and outside of this room and in this podcast, of course, but just in my day-to-day, where I ask somebody, hey, what's your opinion on this? And they just cannot fucking articulate their thoughts. That's very annoying. And one of the things that I appreciate about you and Otis and Delvin, all of y'all, is that when you're asked a question, you're able to articulate your what's going on in your head. You think in paragraphs and you speak in paragraphs, so to speak. So when you listen to our side of it, what was the one thing that you were like, what in the actual fuck are you talking about right now? What was the one thing that just grabbed you and blew your fucking mind?
Was that directed at me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't think at any point I was.
Because Delvin's frozen and.
I'm frozen?
My connection was messed up.
Fuck.
No, I heard you, Delvin. You're fine.
Well, I think they're frozen. They think we're frozen.
Oh, I'm good.
So I guess we just wait till they come back in because I can hear you. Man, you are perfect. Otis had met. Well, since I'm gonna have to edit this part out, but Otis messaged me, said he's having problems with his internet. He's gonna come back in when he gets a chance. It looks like the internet's fucking up now.
Lord have mercy. This is not going well.
And this is funny because last time your internet was the one that kept fucking up. Now
my internet worked. It was the fact that it was something wrong with me. The browser I was using when I changed browsers, it was fine.
Yeah, and now it seems like me and you the only ones who have a steady connection right now.
I got Xfinity, so I have a pretty good internet service.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the conversation is going well.
Yeah. We're getting there. Oh, are they
Here
back?
we are.
Hey.
Okay.
Oh, they just maybe turn off the
Good
video.
answer, Mike.
Good answer. I like that answer. Yeah, we're back. We're back.
Now I guess Mike, you can answer the question now since they're back.
We turn it off so Beasley can say the N-word like 15 times.
Oh,
I gotta give him a hard time. I
don't know where I lost you, man,
is.
and maybe you answered the question, but the question I was posing to you was in your listening back to the conversation that we had with Delvin, what was the one thing that stood out to you that you were like, holy shit, what the fuck are these guys talking about right now? That made no sense to you whatsoever.
Well, there was nothing that made me react that way, but there were things that I had questions about. And actually, one of you touched on it a moment ago, which is the idea of good people not being able to protect themselves. And I was like, I thought, like, do they think that we made that argument? Because at least I wasn't trying to make the argument that nobody should have guns. I wasn't making that argument. My argument is and always has been that we have to take some sort of action to cut down on all these shootings. So my thought is the best way to cut down on all those shootings is to make guns less accessible to those who either don't need them or shouldn't have them. And my thought is that like military grade kind of weapons that are meant for apparently mowing down feral pigs.
They are a nuisance. They are a nuisance.
I would kind of like for people to not have those. And I don't think the argument of we might run into feral pigs is the best response to why everybody should have them or should be allowed to have them. I think there should be a conversation that starts with what's the more important need to cut down on these mass shootings at churches and schools, or to have these kinds of weapons that by and large aren't necessary. Something happened, it got quiet.
I don't know.
Yeah, our internet was so bad. It was like you were on like half speed.
Yeah, it was. But dragging. We got it. We got what you said. Yes. Go ahead, Aaron.
Did you hear me, Delvin?
I heard you clearly.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that the actual podcast picks it up.
Yeah, the podcast picked it up. It picked it up perfectly.
Are you there, Otis? Can you hear us? Can you talk?
Okay, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yep, there you are.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell I even
the thing with the
off
feral pigs. That was just an.
Oh, go ahead, Aaron. I can hear you.
Jump in.
Yeah, just jump in, man.
Give me where you fit in.
The thing about the feral pigs, that was just one example, man. My thing is okay, sure. So we limit who can have these military grade weapons or whatever, however you worded it. If we limit that, there's still going to be criminals or bad people out there that have, and then that just limits me from having one also. So when he comes to my house, which I think I said it with Delvin last week. If one of them comes to my house with an AR or an AK or whatever, I want equal
footing.
You want to come to a fight?
I want to come to the fight with the same kind of weapon. I'm not going to go out there with a little pea shooter pistol trying to defend myself against a guy with an AR that's got rounds in the magazine. You know, it just doesn't make sense, man. I can't.
Right, and beyond that, I think the underlying point that or at least that I tried to articulate, and maybe I didn't do it very well, is yes, I think you open up the door for guys to have an AK or an AR-15 or whatever to hunt pigs. You open up the door to guys that want to have an AR and walk into a Walmart or into a school, right? That opens. The fear that I have is if you shut that door, and I think this is the underlying point, and I truly believe it is the intent of the Second Amendment, and it's a right to us provided by our forefathers, that it is there in place not for hunting. It's not in place for murdering people indiscriminately. I believe that is there so that we, the people, and that includes every fucking body, you two guys, or you three guys, and us, and every motherfucker that you walk across in the United States that's an American citizen, it affords us the ability to, if our government decided to become tyrannical and overtly oppressive, it gives us a way to stand up against them. That's the reason. That's the core of all of it. Now, I understand that the reality of the situation is that if the United States Army and the Marines and the fucking Navy special ops and all this shit decided to fucking overthrow this country, there's probably not going to be much of a fight. But what I do believe, as a core fucking belief, is that the fact that we have the ability currently to possess arms is what keeps tyrannical government in this country from rising. Okay. And I think the more and more restrictions that you put on the people to be able to protect themselves against their own government, you're setting yourself for a fall that you cannot recover from. We're probably already over the hill on that. We're probably on the downhill slide of that. And that's why the Second Amendment and those who are trying to stand up against more and more gun regulations is because of that reason. Now, you're going to have assholes that use that for reasons that are not good, right? They use it to murder people. But I don't know that a minority of people that are murdering people indiscriminately should not allow us to be able to stand up against our own government. I think I'm starting to ramble a little bit, so I'm getting the fucking shut the fuck up over there sign from a mile away, and I better.
I do have something that I want to ask that I know that it was talked about on either podcast. What Mike and Otis, and I guess Delvin, if Delvin has 2 cents to put in, what are your thoughts on gun-free zones? How do you feel about that being out there in the public?
Okay, I'll let you go first, Otis, since you didn't get to talk for all the time you were going.
So is that like churches, schools?
Yeah, churches, schools, government buildings.
I don't even know if I even have an opinion on it. I guess a gun-free zone in a school would maybe prevent. I don't know what that's going to prevent. Maybe just more interaction with guns with kids. I don't really know. I don't know if I really have a stronger opinion on that. I mean, I think in general we want the public safe.
Sure.
No matter what. So if that cuts down on shootings in areas like schools and stuff, so be it. But I've never thought about it honestly, and I don't know if I honestly don't have a strong opinion here on it. Sorry if that really doesn't answer the question, but I've never thought about it, and I don't really have a strong opinion on it. Like I say, we want people to be safe in whatever areas they're in. I mean, those areas, that they probably deem, gun free is, because of, whoever the people that, resides in those areas. But yeah, honestly, that's a good question because I've never thought about that.
So I want to pose this question to you guys because I want to pick your brains on it. I'm sorry.
I wanted to hear Mike's
You're right.
response.
I'm sorry. Mike.
Come on, man.
By all means. And Delvin as well.
I kind of feel the same way as Otis. Like, I haven't really thought about it too much, but on the surface of it, I thought, oh, okay, that seems fine. But then thinking about it a little bit deeper, I don't really see a point to it. It's not going to prevent anything.
It's just words on a piece of paper, right?
Yeah, like I'm sure that there are plenty of people who have been shot in gun-free zones. So, like, I don't really,
right?
Like, what's that going to do?
They can't defend themselves because they are good people and they listen
law.
to the rules and follow the rules and didn't bring a gun in there. But then you got this asshole that shows up with one. They can't do anything about it.
Well, I mean,
now what go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Finish.
No, I was gonna. I don't know if it's a topic shift a little bit, but I was gonna say what I don't like is the idea of preventing school shootings by arming teachers. I think that's equally as pointless. And I don't think the answer to solving gun violence is more guns. I don't.
That was the exact question that I was going to go into just now. Is if you have a gun-free zone, that's legislation, that's words on a piece of paper. There's nothing necessarily there to stop somebody from coming in with anything: a knife, a 9mm, a fucking AK-47, a shotgun, a bazooka. It doesn't really stop them. It's just words on a piece of paper and a sign out front that says, hey, you can't have guns here. So that was going to be my question that I posed to you just a second ago is how would you feel about having qualified, background checked enforcement on gun-free zones not necessarily arming all teachers. But like in Texas, we have school resource officers. Every fucking campus in the state of Texas has a school resource officer. It is somebody that is hired by the local police, and they're on site as long as there's school events going on, football games, volleyball games, during class. They have at least a resource officer on site that is armed to help prevent somebody from going too goddamn far, right? You can surprise anybody. You know what I mean? But I think, like what Kelly was touching on a minute ago, is if you arm good people, right, they can help offset bad people. Because the true belief, and my belief, is that I believe there are more good people in this country than there are bad people.
Has to be. Just for pure statistics alone.
Right, like what y'all talked about. There's more guns in this country than there are people, which means that, you know, per capita, almost every, if you were to break it down, every 6-month-old could possibly have a gun, right? So, but I truly believe that once you start breaking down the numbers, that there's more good people in this country than there are bad. So how would you feel about maybe not even police, but somebody else who goes through some sort of a training or whatever that could be armed to help in those areas, the sensitive areas, schools, like you said? I mean, I've got a 7-year-old. He's in 2nd grade right now. And I don't want anybody coming up in his school murdering him or any of his classmates. You know what I mean? So what's y'all's thoughts on potentially putting people in place through whatever degree of reckoning that they would have to go through in order to be able to be there to protect innocent people, you know, fire for fire? So
I guess to clarify, make sure I want to answer it correctly. When you mean by extra training, you mean like training that you normally don't get to have a gun?
Well, I can explain that a little bit because Florida has school resource officers. They get basically like security guard like training, but a little bit more detailed.
That was going to be my question. I was going to say, don't we already have that, and it's called security?
Well, in Texas, it's actually
I'm not trying to be snarky either, by the way.
No, absolutely. And I don't know about other states, but in Texas, if you have a security guard, there's multiple levels. There's level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 and 2 are strictly paid observers.
Yes.
The most violent thing that they have on their body is pepper spray. If you go to level 3, right, which is more training, more understanding of, you know, bylaws and things to this effect. They're not quite a police officer, but they're really close. They can actually carry a weapon. All right. They can carry a gun. But typically in Texas, most of the school resource officers and people that are in place in public buildings are police officers. So they have to pass the TCLOS. They have to have the full-on training that a police officer has in order to be security at that location. But they are hired by either a police department or a sheriff's department or Texas Rangers, right? You know, state police.
Baseball players?
Yes, right. Okay. Elvis Andrews is going out and be like, "Hey, bitch, you can't come in here."
They work for Chuck Norris. You know, Walker.
Well,
I think. Oh, go ahead, Delvin.
I can give you guys a clear clarification. It's not a good one because he didn't do his fucking job. But when the Parkland shooting happened, the dipshit who was standing outside saying he heard the shots from somewhere else, he was a student resource officer.
Yeah.
Right. And you're rolling the dice on that every time, right? Yeah. Because people are fucking people. Cops are people, right?
Yes.
I believe that most cops are good folks. You have motherfuckers that are behind a badge that are pieces of fucking shit all day, every day, right? But again, when you start breaking things down into a per capita, I believe that most cops are good people. And I believe that most cops that choose, because you have to volunteer in Texas to be an SRO, school resource officer. You have to volunteer for that. You can't be appointed to that by your chief of police or your fucking sheriff or whatever. It's something that you have to go, hey, I want to do that.
So I will provide something of a counterpoint, not trying to be too pessimistic, but I would argue that if most cops were good people, there would be far more vocal police officers about the shitty ones, and they'd be far less complicit and held more accountable. I think cops get incredibly silent when their peers are doing shitty things. And even though you are not actively being shitty, allowing shitty things to happen and being complacent because that's your person who shares your profession is a different form of shittiness, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Eddie.
I have insight on that, but I don't know how much I can say because he probably might listen to this episode. But I'll just say this. Unfortunately, just like there is in the streets about a no snitching code, it's kind of the same thing with police, which is crazy to think about because police are the ones who always tell you don't snitch.
Man, that's the.
Yeah.
There was a point that about the what do you call it, security resource officers? Was
Yes.
that the term?
That's the term.
I think the reason that I'm so kind of like not baffled, but I'm kind of like, don't we already have that? I think it's because just from me being in Detroit, we have armed guards every fucking where. Like I've seen armed guards at IHOP. So like that's
but and to that point, here's what I would say. You don't hear a lot about in the news of mass shootings happening in Detroit, right? You don't hear a lot about mass shootings happening in Texas. We've had one here recently, but on the
We
grand
had one
scale,
on a military base with a Muslim shooting up Army soldiers.
yeah, Fort Hood, right.
Hood.
That was
And that shit was ended quickly.
5 years ago.
But I think these areas where you have a knowledge, like if you're a fucking psychopath, and it's one of the things I wanted to touch about with you, Otis, the whole health issue, that kind of got, it bothered me probably as much as it bothered you when I said, we start talking about mental health. I don't think you can qualify any of these people that are murdering motherfuckers indiscriminately as mentally stable. Right? Because if they're mentally stable, they're not murdering motherfuckers just randomly. And that stretches across all the spectrums of killings. You know what I'm saying? I don't think the guy that is a fucking white supremacist that drives through a black neighborhood and just starts, 65 miles an hour down a fucking street and starts running off fucking rounds at houses is mentally fucking stable. And I don't think on the flip side of that, where you have a black guy that runs through either a white neighborhood or a black neighborhood and just starts fucking rattling off rounds, that's not a mentally stable person, right? There's something in them that's just a little bit off from what we would consider normal. So that's what I talked about when I was talking about mental health. I don't think you can narrow down anybody that just murders motherfuckers without, reason, even with reason, that you could call them mentally stable.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead on this.
Well, I'll answer one part. As far as the extra training for security or however you want to deem those people, I mean, I don't think that'll be an issue, if it works. But it seems like we want training and extra for people doing that, but we don't want more training, more background checks for just regular citizens that can just get guns. When I was listening to you guys on the podcast, I can't remember if one of you, maybe it's you, Curtis. I'm not sure, but I think you said that basically if you are a U.S. citizen, you should be able to just go buy a gun.
Correct.
And we have stricter laws to get driver's license. We have stricter restrictions for anything else. It just shouldn't be that easy just being an American citizen to go get a gun.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
That's a huge problem.
The unfortunate part of that is driving is not a right. Driving is a privilege. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you have a right to drive a vehicle. It's considered a privilege in this country.
You have a right to travel.
Totally agree, and that's why I feel that having a gun is a privilege. That is something that you can kill people with. That just shouldn't be a right. That should be something that you get trained on. You have background checks. You have all the things necessary to handle that, because a person could go in random store, get random gun, and can go and just mow a whole bunch of people, and maybe even accidental because he's not trained to do it. He hasn't been trained to hold a gun. So we just let a person, just because they're a citizen, walk into a place and hold a gun, don't know how to use a gun, but just because he's a citizen, he should be able to have a gun. That's crazy. That's asinine. You wouldn't send if you had a son, 18, 19-year-old, whatever his age, and he's legally able to go get a gun, you wouldn't send him in a store buying a gun without knowing he could use it. And we have people that going in places getting guns that they don't even know how to use them, or using them for different reasons.
I was 18 years old and I joined the Marine Corps, and they trained me how to use a gun. And
you just said you answered your own question. You just said train. I'm saying you wouldn't trust your 18-year-old child to walk, or son, whatever you want to deem. You wouldn't trust them to just go buy a gun without knowing how to use it, right?
Okay, so here's my counterpoint to that. Because as it stands right now, the Second Amendment is a right to us to keep and bear arms. Here's my counterpoint to that. Does everybody that do exactly right need training in order to do that? Do you need training to know how to vote?
You should.
You should.
Because
some people
you might need a little bit.
But that's the whole point is that every right that exists, it's a right. And until that right gets changed, it's still our right. Okay. So it's your right to vote. But if somebody was to come to you and say, hey, before you go vote, you've got to go take a 6-week training course and pay us to take said course so that you know how to vote correctly. What is the odds that during that, you're not going to be influenced to vote one way or the fucking other?
That voting.
That's a valid. You should. I think you should. I mean, voting is great, but if you voting with a purpose is much better. So if you need to be trained on knowing how to look at your constituents, that should be something. This whole just because you're a citizen is just crazy. But if you don't mind, I would love for you three to answer the one question I asked. You have an 18-year-old. He's able to buy a gun. Do you send him in a store to buy a gun, and you don't have him do any kind of training to learn how to do it? He just has it, and he's just free to go whatever.
Okay, yes and no. I have a 10-year-old son. He was 9 when I bought his gun. He didn't know anything about that gun when I bought it. But guess what? I had to take him out to the woods, and I trained him on how to use it. And he carries it his own self.
So, yeah, I mean, so he was trained to know. He was trained. He was taught. So,
by his parents.
He was taught by his parents. He was taught. My point is, you have people that potentially could go and buy a gun and have no training, no nothing, and just have a gun. They could actually shoot themselves.
How are you going to restrict adults? How are you going to restrict responsible adults without screening them before anything? How are you going to restrict them from doing whatever they want?
Well, you're thinking more highly in them than I do, because I don't just deem you responsible. Because
if you're 18, you can join the military, you can smoke cigarettes, you can do whatever. You're a fucking adult.
But don't you think that's even crazy that you can join the military at 18?
Man, I joined the military when I was 17.
There's something wrong with that? Huh?
Yeah, I totally think it, because I mean, at 17, I joined the military. I could go die for my country, but I couldn't buy fucking booze. Yes, I think there is something wrong with that, Otis.
Yeah,
exactly. There's something wrong with that. It's terribly wrong with that.
We're not arguing different points. I think we're arguing the same point, but there's different ways of getting.
I don't think we have the same point. My point is, if you wouldn't allow your 10-year-old to hold a gun without any kind of training, you shouldn't allow an 18-year-old, just because he's 18, to be able to go anywhere and buy a gun.
Okay, so where's the line? So what's the line? I mean, our prefrontal cortex does not fully develop until we're 25 years old. And you've got 18-year-olds who are cut loose. You've got 16-year-olds in Texas that are cut loose to go driving, right? And they're driving. You've got 9-year-olds that are able in this country to play football and take impacts and wreck their fucking brains. So there's always going to be this debate on where the line is. And I don't necessarily have an issue with moving the legal age to 21 or 22 or 23, right? Maybe you have a strong point there of, man, maybe 18-year-olds aren't necessarily ready to go out and take on all the responsibilities of being able to possess a gun or drive a car or any of the other things that they could do that can cause other people harm, right? The fact of the matter is, there's got to be a line somewhere. You got to draw it at some point. At some point,
the problem with the drawing the line is that no one wants to draw the line. We just let it. It just happens. Like the fact that you can go to the Army at 18 is fucked up. You're still a child. That shouldn't even be a thing. So I mean, we could have all these different scenarios of driving at 16 or smoking at 18, drinking at 21. Those are things that's just been in our history, and so we just do them. You know, no, we don't question them because they're on paper, and we just do them. Hell, at some point, women couldn't even vote in America. Not just black people, women, period, couldn't vote. And for a while, we just let it happen until
not sure they even still need to.
Oh my God!
Kelly is trying to die.
Not sure women even need to vote anymore.
Y'all thought I was gonna be the one saying all the inflammatory shit. I'm chilling.
Mike, me and you, we need to get together later on.
Hey,
Oh goddamn! A Kelly Sparks and fucking Fifth of the Night Mike conversation.
Man.
Good Lord, that'll burn the internet to the ground.
Dude, I'm all about being non-PC. Let's fuck this shit up.
I'm telling you.
Dude, I totally agree with Otis, man. We need training.
Yes.
People need training before they get certified to do anything. I totally agree with that, man. I'm all on board with it. Do I think it's going to stop bad people from doing bad things?
No, they're going to be better at doing bad things.
But with the training, if we train our children, I don't have any kids, by the way. If we train our children, if we train our youths to do if we train our children to do better things and be more responsible, I think that would decrease the likelihood of bad people doing bad things. Overall,
that's fair, and I totally agree. I think the problem I have with, you guys mentioned on your episode a lot of, guns being stolen, coming into bad people's hands, bad people doing stuff. That's fair, and it happens a lot. And I don't know what the answer is to that. But what I do know is that a lot of the mass shooters that we've had were good people until they were bad people.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to just go and buy a gun, and as easy as it is, and do what they did. So they wasn't bad people. They wasn't, like TV, project people with hoods on and tattoos over their face and shit like that. They were the cleanest fucking people, and they were able to go out and grab a gun, and they were self-proclaimed good people because they were able to purchase a gun. So it's not stolen guns. It's not bad people. These are situations where they were purchased legally. They were good people, and they killed a whole bunch of people.
I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer was a good next door neighbor until he found people found he was eating motherfuckers.
He used a gun, and I don't want to stray too much off of that because we want to just talk about guns. Because
no, I know that, but I'm just saying, like,
a person with a hammer. We've heard that stuff. We've heard that topic. We want to talk about guns and the good people that get guns, and then they're bad.
Well, they're not. But you said good people are good until they're bad. All right. So how are you going to do a background check or whatever regulations you want to put on there on a good person? They're still good, so they're going to get the gun anyways. And then they turn bad. So I mean, regulations ain't going to do shit.
Let me ask this question.
So, I guess I took away from your episode was put more guns on the street and do nothing to regulate. That's what I got out of it.
In a way, yes. But in a way, no. The point
I feel like you pretty much did the thoughts and prayers thing and was just like, let's put more guns in people's hands. That's sad that they got killed, but I'm not taking away my gun. And a point is that I know myself and Mike, we've never, other than like the high power magazine guns and things like that, we've never explicitly said take all guns away from citizens. Like, and a good point, I asked this before, and we didn't talk about it, and I asked it on a Facebook status of someone. If you have your guns and new people cannot purchase guns for a year or two, and we track to see shootings, non-shootings, what happened, how would that affect people like yourselves who have guns?
Well, I think Aaron addressed that. Here's how it affects people. If I can't, or you can't, or we can't purchase guns for whatever period of time, right? 1 year, 2 years.
And and this is preface saying you actually have guns already.
We have guns already, right? Yeah. Currently, my household has a gun. We have one gun. We got a 38 special, right? Let's say that we decide to go out like we do from time to time. We decide to go shoot, right? We use personal protection. I take it with me when I travel. Terry keeps it most of the time in her side drawer of the house for personal protection when I'm away from the home, right? I go away for anywhere from 3 to 5 nights a week. I'm out of the house. So she's there alone with the kids, right? It makes me feel good to know that if somebody was to kick in our front door, that it could physically overpower her. She's got an equalizer. Here, if you tell me that I can't buy a gun for 2 years, or anybody can't buy a gun for 2 years, right? If you've got guns, keep them. But if you need to go get one, you're shit out of luck for 24 months. If for whatever reason we go out and we try to fucking shoot the gun to just make sure we're staying up with the ability to handle the fucking kickback and all the things that we do when we go out and practice shoot, right? If that thing drops a fucking chipper, if it drops the fucking sight, if the hammer quits working, I'm sitting here going, okay, for the next 18 to 19 fucking months, I cannot protect my fucking house. if somebody decides to kick in the fucking door because I own a gun.
Curtis, understood. Let's even make your situation better. You have 5 guns at home. You can leave, go out of town. Terry's straight at home. She's good. Gun fucks up. She has another one under the pillow. Let's just make that situation better. Even if that situation is perfect in your situation, can't buy guns a year or two while we track different shootings. Is that going to be an issue?
Yes.
How? You have what you need.
But what if I was to tell you, hey, anybody that turns 18 in the next 6 months for the next years can't vote while we track voter fucking statistics. And you turn 18 next month and they go, you know what? Sorry about your bad luck. You can't vote till you're fucking 20. I'm taking a right away from you. You take a right away from me wholesale, even if it's for fucking 24 months. I'm not okay with my government telling me that I can't execute my fucking rights that are appointed to me. What if they were to go up and say, hey, you know what? We're going to put a pause on the fucking 13th Amendment for fucking 2 years. You can be cool with that?
No.
My subject.
No.
I just want to talk.
No. Fucking nobody.
I want to talk about guns. That's what we're here for. Talk about
America
not being able to vote. We not be having freedom of speech.
Let me put this on the table because me and Curtis talked about this before. Because me and Curtis talked about the fact that all these shootings that especially happened lately haven't been the gun owners who've had guns for 20 years. It's all been people who bought guns within weeks of time, got the gun, then did their shooting. So my whole thing was why we can't make a law where the people who owned the guns for 25 years aren't getting penalized for people buying guns for 2 weeks.
Well, that's kind of the point. I mean, if it wasn't understood, if we're regulating people who cannot just go out and buy a gun and do a shooting, and you have guns and you've had guns and you're fine, I don't know why it's such an issue for just strangers, people you don't know, to have that right to be able to do it. When you have yours, you're good.
This is my thing.
Right, but what if I didn't own a gun right now and I decided that I did? What if my job changed, right? Like, I mean, it happened just recently, within three years of now. Within the window of what you're talking about, we're in the precipice of me changing a job position where I was home every night to where I was gone every night. And if you have a person that's in the country right now that situation happens to them and they go, fuck, my job situation changed. Now I've got to be gone 4 nights a week. I would love for my fucking wife to be able to protect herself and the 2 kids against somebody that would decide to come in and harm. I'm on this restriction now, and I can't provide that kind of protection to them for the next 2 years. What's going to happen is they are going to go outside of the law and become a criminal in order to obtain that fucking weapon and that protection. Even though it's their fucking right, that right has been put on pause for 24 months. Now they have to become a criminal in order to protect themselves. To me, in this country, with the rights that are provided to us, I do not think that's okay.
Oh, I totally understand that you don't feel it's okay. We're not having this conversation because people are using guns right. People are, are responsible. We're not having the conversation because they're not, guns don't get stolen. We have all these issues. We're having a major issue with mass shootings. And this is the reason we're having this conversation. So to stop these random shootings of 30 and 40 people, we want to, try something other than doing nothing to make something happen. And it just seems like that's just not you don't see it as an option. So,
I think there is a middle ground that you can find with this situation. I think straight up blunt, I don't think taking away people's guns is an option at this point. If you it's
never an option, and that was never nothing that we've argued. We've never argued taking away in general, taking away just.
I'm not saying that you guys argue that. I know that for a fact you didn't argue that, but to their credit, there has been people making those arguments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just not on this show.
Sound insane. And I think that's what
I don't think we're going to solve all the problems right here, right now. Yeah. Obviously, this is something that's going to have to be mulled over more and more and more. And we're going to walk away from this, and hopefully we have a chance to think about the things that y'all said, that the points that y'all pulled up. Again, y'all think about it. I mean, we can do this. We can probably do this podcast, Delvin, Mike, Otis, 50 fucking times. You know what I mean? We can have this conversation over and over and over, and maybe we will inch more and more and more towards a middle ground. But I think right now, like Otis said at the very beginning, I think we're so far apart on this, and we're so passionate on the opposite side that we're probably what's going to happen here over the next however long we go is probably we're going to end up reiterating some of the same points over and over and over. We're going to have the same little force. I think.
No, I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, by all means.
I think I think they're good discussions because I think Mike, we share a totally different, viewpoint, perspective, and so forth. So we could revisit this in November. We could revisit this December, whatever. And there's going to be more mass shootings. It's just going to happen, and we're going to have the same points unless one of us lessen up or lessen our stances. I don't see it happening because we're strong in what we believe in, and we're still going to have these shootings, and there's still going to be guys going in to stores just buying guns, like maybe the last three major ones at least, bought guns within a certain amount of time of that shooting, and committed that shooting. So I thought you guys were going to make the point because you said something. I think Delvin or somebody said a percentage about mass shootings were a certain percentage of new gun owners, people who went and bought guns. So I thought you guys were going to make the point that people who own guns don't really do that, which I haven't looked at the history, but if we go by the last three major ones, those were people who just picked up guns.
Well, I actually had stats on it, but to be clear,
no. I mean, I know you haven't had stats, but
I actually had stats on it. To be clear, the last, with the exception of Stephen Paddock, that was the guy with the Las Vegas shooters. Mm-hmm. Most of the shooters, all the shooters, bought their guns within weeks of them committing the act.
And come on now, we all know that Las Vegas shooting was a setup, man. There's no way that motherfucker.
Kelly, we're going to have that conversation later.
I don't want to talk about the conspiracies, but what I do want to talk about is if that's a stat that say for the sake of argument for this conversation, 80% of mass shootings in the last 6 years have happened from new shooters. Why are people who've owned guns for years, have a problem with new shooters? Because they're the ones that's doing it. Why would, if I'm a staunch gun owner and I have guns, I would want the people who are getting new guns to have training so they wouldn't do fuck shit. So why have that stance of new people not having no kind of regulation when they're the ones that's doing it?
The primary reason for that is this. I do not want my rights restricted due to a minority of people who don't know how to fucking act, that want to do fuck shit. I love that fucking term, and I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to use it all day, every day, because you've dropped that shit like 16 times in Delvin's episode. I'm like, goddamn, that's a good fucking way to say things. You want to do fuck shit. I don't want what I and other good people have I don't want their opportunities limited because a minority of people do fuck shit. That's the reason why I don't necessarily want more and more and more regulations on the purchase of guns. Because if you take the minority of people that are doing it, you can take the numbers, and we talked about this before. It doesn't really even matter. You can go to the fucking high end, right, of like almost 1,000 mass shootings in this country, depending on how many people died and how many people got hurt. You can cut it up however you want to, but let's take the high number.
Just to interject real quick, the FBI's definition of mass shooting is 4 or more in a single incident are killed.
That are indiscriminate.
Correct.
Right.
Well, I mean, it didn't even say anything about indiscriminate, to be honest. It's just 4 or more in a single incident.
And if you use the FBI's description of it or the definition of it, you're getting down to maybe 60 in the country. All right. But if you use other people's, depending on who you decide to fucking listen to, we can go high number. Let's go high number. Let's say it's 1,000 fucking mass shootings, okay, in this country, right? How many motherfuckers are in this country that are over the age? I think we went over this with Delvin, that are over the age of 18 that can purchase a gun. You got like 100 million motherfuckers, right? So you have 1% of the population that can commit mass shootings, committing mass shootings. I don't think it's fair to restrict 99% of the country for what they want to fucking do with their right based on 1% of the country.
Okay, so
I agree with you.
Go ahead.
Using that same logic of percentages and so forth, if your neighbor you don't know he can't buy a gun. And say this supposed, restriction happens. The neighbor that you don't know next door can't buy a gun. Something happens. Someone invades his house. He gets killed. By percentage, that's one person versus the thousands of shootings that happens. So if we're going to go with percentages and what's worth more or less, if that one person somehow gets killed or shot because they didn't have a gun and we stop however many more shootings, aren't we going with the higher percentages of saved lives?
I don't think so. I think your logic there is flawed.
I mean, if we're gonna try to save lives with shootings, I mean, like upwards of 46,000 motherfuckers killed themselves in 2017, 2018. If we're really gonna worry about people and people dying, then there is a fucking mental issue and there is a gun issue for sure. But they're killing themselves. Like the mass shootings have been minuscule compared to the people who fucking killed themselves. So, like, why are we? Man, I'm fucking losing.
Yeah,
my
that's
thought.
one of the.
I thought the conversation was about lives. We're talking about the many lives that were killed in El Paso, that were killed at the Garlic Festival, that were killed in Dayton. We're talking about mass people that's been killed.
I think honestly, I'm not real sure that people have been killed there because I didn't see any footage of people getting killed.
No,
so
Lord,
that's just
down that train.
Yeah, I'm always going to go.
Kelly, we're going to have that conversation.
I didn't say Vegas. I'm talking about El Paso.
Hey, here's a middle ground. Here's a perfect middle ground. All right. I think all three or all four of us agree with the three of y'all. Everybody should be getting along at a fucking garlic festival.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Fucking everybody.
Don't fuck with the garlic.
Garlic's fucking awesome.
Don't kiss nobody at a garlic festival.
I love garlic bread.
I do too.
It's white as fuck.
Nope. Racist as fuck. Not if it's toasted. Damn it.
Racist.
Hey, I think because really I don't see any movement right now on either side of the issue. But let me make this point. I think what the best thing that can come out of this is something Curtis hit on earlier was the perspective, right? Because before listening to Mike and Otis and then, us getting together and having our little conversation, I don't think either side had the perspective of the other side.
Sure.
Right. I certainly didn't have the perspective from Otis and Mike prior to listening to that podcast. Right. No. So my hope is that somebody smarter than us can take both of our perspectives and come up with an idea that maybe isn't so, oh, fuck you, you're not taking my rights, or, oh, fuck you, you just want little kids to be killed, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the win. If there is a win in this 3-part series, I think that's the win, is giving other people the opportunity to hear two opposing perspectives and knowing that it's okay to have opposing perspectives.
Agreed.
I will add on to that by saying I think it's a win in general because these conversations are not being had and ending this well.
Not at all.
That's my point. That's the whole point of this. The point that we can sit down together and have a serious conversation about gun control. And at the end of the day, we can sit down and say, okay, we're all cool. We can crack jokes about it. We can have fun. We can all be like, it gets heated and intense. But at the end of the day, we're not going to, you're a cunt, motherfucker, and shit like that. We still can be civil about the whole situation. And I think
that the first time you said cunt on your podcast?
Ever. Yes, I think it is.
Yes.
I'm going to take partial credit for that.
Hey,
that is not the first time we have said it.
I'm going to run for office on making people use the word cunt more.
Yes.
I would vote.
My vote.
I would vote for you.
I would vote for you too.
I think it's very important that people hear these conversations.
Agreed.
That it doesn't have to go the route of screaming and shouting and see that civil.
You made me think of something, Delvin, when you were talking about essentially civil conversations. What do you think? I mean, I don't know about y'all. I don't know really your age range. I assume you're pretty close to 32 and a half.
No, that's
Delvin.
No, not me. Talking about y'all.
Okay.
Black don't crack.
That's what I was going to say. Black don't crack. Either one of these three dudes right here might be 87 years old.
Delvin's like 24. At least that's what he looks like.
I wish.
So growing up, I grew up and went to high school in Oklahoma. All right. Right. I'm so sorry. I'll never live it down. But one of the things that I remember was if you had an issue with somebody like a bully, all right, you took them down to, we called it the smoke hole because that's where we all smoked in the mornings before we went to school.
Heathens.
Right. We're terrible. You took them down to the smoke hole after school and whipped their ass. Right.
Or took an ass
whooping. And then that was the end of it. Either you stopped bullying or they stopped bullying you. And, you know, I just went through second grade orientation. And the mother, had to sign a form about their anti-bullying policy. And that there is a zero tolerance for fighting. So my question to you is if we could get back to the olden days,
yes.
You know, like
let's fight
20 years ago.
Fucking fight it out.
Yeah, if we could get back to a time where we could just whoop each other's ass and move on, do you think that would help, particularly with the school shootings?
Yes.
I think I agree with that.
Mike couldn't wait to answer. He had to answer 7 minutes ago.
Yes.
Okay, so there you go.
I'm a huge fan of beating the shit out of fucked up people.
Okay. Delvin?
Yes.
Delvin, I need you to take note. We have just reached the middle ground.
There it is. There it is.
I was gonna get at that if Otis ever gave me a chance to speak. I was gonna say
on this episode.
Listen, I lost 10 minutes because my shit was off. I had to make up for all of that shit.
Fair enough. But I was gonna say that I was gonna ask kind of like, you know, we've talked about, you know, rights and restrictions, and I was gonna ask you guys' opinion on to kind of preface this a little bit, I think it was pretty clear in the podcast that we did with Delvin that for me, I find nothing more heinous than the people who are going to these schools and shooting kids. Yeah. And when we reach that point where this is happening, not like, okay, this happened. This is happening. It happens continuously over and over and over. And a lot of us here on this podcast have kids, and to me, that's what gets me fired up. That's when I start calling people cunts and all that shit. So my question was going to be, what would you propose as a solution? And I think even if you don't agree with Otis's points or my points or Delvin's points, my question would have been, well, how do you think we fix this then? And I think allowing people to beat the shit out of each other is a great start, but that was going to be my question. I was kind of leaning in that direction as well, because
bring back intramural boxing, like scholastic, like fucking junior high, middle school. Teach kids how to box. Teach kids how to fucking take an ass whooping.
Yeah,
again.
Take wrestling. Bring wrestling.
Yeah,
back.
I mean, and that honestly could fix a lot of it. I mean, it really could.
So here I'm going to think out of the box here right quick. I think that a lot of these shooters, these people who go up and shoot up schools or churches or anything like that, like, yeah, a lot of them are racist people who are doing things against, you know, black people or Muslims or Mexicans or whatever. Yeah, a lot of them are racist. Also, a lot of them are incels. Y'all know what that is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I wonder if we could solve a lot of mass shootings by countrywide legalizing prostitution and getting these lame people laid.
I'm for it.
Totally,
100%.
Totally, 100% for it.
Here's my agreement with you on that. Here's my point on that.
They should get the smoke hole.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
The real smoke hole.
Fucking stress.
Yes. Here's my point. I don't understand why it's perfectly okay for a female to go to a bar and elicit attention from a male and have him spend anywhere from $60 to $200 worth of drinks on a hope, when you could have a clean fucking exchange of, hey, do you want to fuck? Yeah, I want to fuck. That's going to charge you $100. Okay, I agree to that price. Here's an exchange of fucking funds. I'm gonna stick my dick in you.
7.5 minutes
The
later, the fucking.
Fucking 7.5 minutes. What the fuck?
Hey, I'm pounding it out.
Have we solved mass shootings now?
Yes. Just fucking
Totally.
legalize prostitution.
I don't
and
know.
nobody
If
murders
mass
Prostitution and ass whipping
podcast.
right here on the Delvin Cox
Hey,
experience.
I
fucking
think
and fighting.
I,
It's
I,
over.
I think we can all agree, as long as no children are harmed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, I would like to say though, I think in that bar situation, I don't necessarily blame the woman, because if a guy willing to spend $200 at the bar when he could just pay $50 for some ass, that's on him. He's the dumb fuck.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, chances are the quality of that ass he's going to take home for $200 at the bar on his hope,
Man, they
probably a little bit better than that $50 piece of ass he's going to catch
Hey,
over there
but
on
if
the
he
highway.
spends that $200 on his drinks, his hope goes down very small. Anything with
they don't shut down Craigslist, man. I don't know what the new website is.
if he drinks $50, $100 of drinks at the bar, he gets beer goggles and he will fuck anything. That should be
True
his.
that. True
He
that.
could just stick his dick in his own in an orange for Christ's
And I
sake.
love what Terry said there. Just if
Peeled
nothing else,
orange,
just
though, right?
Just cut a hole in it. Just like, I still want the rind on the outside to get a little friction.
I've heard that the citrus kind of burns, but that's what I've heard.
Probably in the pee hole.
He said he heard.
Yeah, he heard. Right.
Tell the truth.
Yeah,
Your
this is
shit's
Super
been
Ted
a
video
grapefruit before.
episode.
You're a black man. You know you got to have a bigger fruit than an orange.
Yes.
Detroit Pie, starring Otis.
Fucking watermelon.
That could be a YouTube.
Yeah,
Well, I
man,
guess not YouTube, since it'd be a dick and something. But never mind.
You let a watermelon sit out in the sun for an afternoon and then stick your dick in it. Goodness.
Good Lord.
Come on. What?
It's so wet.
Hey, if I can't make it weird, fuck it. I don't want to do this shit no more.
What category could it be from a black guy fucking a watermelon eating chicken?
You would get
think I'm gonna
1 million
have that
and a half
conversation on
views
this podcast.
within the first hour of you posting that.
Hey, to bring it full circle.
Delvin, I'm sorry.
I didn't
Delvin.
say shit for the last half hour, and I bring up prostitution fixing this shit. Now we fucking watermelons.
Hey,
So here's what we're gonna do.
I'm just gonna,
Let's wrap this up.
I'm just giving you
Slow
that,
clap.
Mike.
Slow clap.
That's all for you, Mike.
Wait, I need to bring it full circle real quick. I just got a notification on my phone that says, please don't meme overworked Popeyes employees. It's not nice. Just eat your chicken and leave them alone.
Fuck them motherfuckers.
They ran out of chicken.
Fuck them. Buy more chicken, bitch.
I'm
So
going
here's
to
what we're
Chicken
gonna do.
Express.
Mike, Otis, independently, one-on-one, or as a group, we need to get up on the What Up Doe, and y'all got to get on here. But we're going to do the damn thing. But we're going to talk about super light shit. We're going to talk about smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, and fucking prostitutes. We're going to go lightweight.
And
We're going to go
fucking
lightweight. Let's do
Well,
it.
I'm reformed, so but yeah, no, I'm just fucking with you. Yeah, that's cool.
I'll leave all them prostitutes alone from now on.
Every time Otis walks up to a fruit stand, like, oh, no, we got your picture right here. Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, man.
You cannot come to the motherfucking fruit stands
Hey,
anymore.
hey, man, y'all got some tangerines? I really like them.
I can honestly say I've never paid for a prostitute, but I have paid for drinks at the bar with the hope of getting some later.
Hey,
Yeah,
man,
same thing.
we're deep diving.
You've never had to pay for a prostitute. You've gotten laid and you have not shot anybody. So there you have it.
There you go.
I think that's an outstanding fucking citizen, to be fucking honest.
Yeah.
Otis, like, you don't even know. I could be a crazy motherfucker, but I'm not. You're welcome, America.
I think it's a good reason. Like I think the first episode we did together, I was talking about how I applied for my carrying permit and I got denied because of like traffic tickets and so forth. But I think it's a good thing because, man, my road rage can get crazy, and
I got ran out of my.
I'm dealing with it. But sometimes I felt like if I had something, I may have thought about it. Man, it's some fucked up people on these roads.
2 duffel bags on my shoulders into a fucking academy here in town one time trying to buy a fucking pistol, and I was drunk. And that guy was like, our system's down, son. Sorry about your bad luck. His system wasn't down. He knew I was fucking drunk. But I was standing there with my white privilege, just like, hey, bitch, sell me a gun, motherfucker. And he was like, no, we ain't doing that right now. So there is shit in place.
Where'd you get that privilege issued at? Because I hadn't got that.
Apparently
shit yet.
from my mom's pussy.
Oh.
They were like, when you were born and you were white, and they were like, oh, shit, here it is. They lather it on you in the fucking.
It don't appeal to redheads.
they do say that Texans are given guns at birth. They do say that.
They do say that, but they wrong as fuck.
Hey, we don't get guns at birth, but I get guns at death because motherfuckers giving them away when they die.
Well, you get 21 of them when you die.
Well, I mean, I inherited like 6 or 7 after my grandfather died.
Right.
Oh my God.
Devin, wrap that shit up.
Yeah, it's time to wrap this shit up for people start confessing the felonies and shit.
Right. Fucking crimes are finna come out the woodwork.
There was this one time in Oklahoma City.
Sorry.
To this episode of the podcast.
Let me mute his mic.
I'm gonna save that for the WUDUPDOE podcast.
Yeah. Hey man, fucking fruits ain't a felony. It's like what was the movie where he's like The Hangover? It's not against the law. It's just discouraged, like masturbating on an airplane.
Well, in Thailand, man, things are legal over there that wouldn't be legal everywhere else.
We have a very interesting
Thailand story.
Yeah, I said we have a very interesting podcast episode where I talked about my honeymoon in Thailand.
Oh shit!
You need to get Kelly's story.
Let's go.
About what episode that was, Kelly? You told the story about what was the app you was using?
Oh fuck!
Bumble?
Tinder or Bumble?
Episode 26. Go look it up. It's wild as fuck.
So hold on. There was episode 7 was a Tinder story, and episode 26 I got caught up. I got catfished on Snapchat.
That's episode 26's story.
It's in our fucking intro. If you listen to our intro, the part where Kelly says, I'm going to come all over you and rub it in, or whatever the fuck it says.
Come all down your throat.
Hey, Mike and Otis, if y'all really want to laugh, just go find episode 26.
I'm gonna definitely check it out.
You'll have a good laugh.
We'll tag you with the episode that Mike talked about his Thailand trip. I think y'all will find it pretty entertaining.
Definitely.
Damn sure.
Oh,
hey,
and
Delvin.
we would also have to tag y'all in the episode where Otis talked about when he got his ass ate.
Oh, yes.
Holy shit. Mike was like, okay, we're finna drop the A-bomb on everybody.
We're going to throw him in.
Mike was like, I'm not being exposed only.
Delvin.
What's up?
Hey, girl, you like salads? You like to toss?
Can I hit y'all with a quote from that episode? My favorite quote, probably in the history. It's probably my favorite quote in the history. We have 205 episodes.
Yeah.
My favorite quote in all 205 episodes is when he said getting his ass ate. It felt like he was getting his diaper changed.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The comfort of that.
Hey,
Can you imagine a grown man with his knees by his ears? Can you imagine that?
So my wife knows about that episode. Okay, so my wife is the person that did that, and she knows about the episode, but I won't tell her which episode it was. So she hasn't heard it though.
You fuck down.
Hey man, if people can't have a serious conversation about serious shit and then end on somebody getting their ass ate by some girl, I don't want to live in this world anymore.
I never said it was a girl.
Hey, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was definitely a woman for the record.
I ain't discriminating. Ain't nothing wrong being gay, Mike. I mean, it's cool.
No, I said Otis never said it was a girl.
My bad. I'm drunk. You guys all look like. I'm sorry. It's so racist.
Hey, what was that? One of y'all said that we both sound the same. I was like,
All of them said y'all both sound the same.
I think that was Delvin. I don't know. I'm gonna blame it on the black guy.
Blame it on the black guy.
Blame it on the black guy.
Speaking of Delvin, for real. For real. Thank you for being you. Thank you for going down this road and saying, you know what? I'm going to be the guy, right? Because all of us would have never spoke one fucking word to each other. I would not have known that Otis and Mike even fucking existed. They would not have known we existed if it hadn't been for you going down this path of doing what you're doing right now. And I just want to put it out there from us. It's fucking appreciated. And we can't thank you enough for just being who the fuck you are and opening us up to the possibility of having these conversations with you specifically and Mike and Otis. And I think there's going to be some follow-up fucking podcasts that come from all of that. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing. And we want to give you the virtual fucking white guy high five from this end.
Which cow?
Thank you, guys. I will say this. The next time we all record together, we just need to do a fun episode. No more of this crazy shit. Just talk shit for an hour.
That's fair.
Oh, yeah.
That's fair.
Yes, I'm down with that 100%.
Yeah, this shit got my blood pressure all high and shit. So we need some fun shit to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. As always, Delvin Cox Experience. We are out. Peace.